More than 150 people in El Paso are waiting for a life-saving organ transplant right now. 22 people die every day in the United States because they need an organ that is not available. Have you discussed organ donation options yet with your family? We're going to give you some heartwarming stories and some information about all kinds of organ donations. And during the next hour, as you know, we've got some experts addressing those questions. As you know, this is a live show, so call us 881-0013. This evening's program is underwritten by Las Palmas del Sol Healthcare, and a special thank you to the Paul L. Foster School of Medicine for manning the phones for your live questions this evening. We also want to thank the El Paso County Medical Society for bringing this show to you each and every month. Good evening, I'm Catherine Berg, and you're watching The El Paso Physician. Thanks again for joining us. Today we are talking about receiving the gift of life. And if you have not talked about organ donation yet with your family, and this is something that you've been wanting to do, today might be that discussion, and there are questions that you can ask all evening long about this very topic. With me today, we have Dr. Fernando Rodales, who's been with us several times, so thank you for being the veteran on the show. We're going to call him Papa Rodales because you're going to teach these two young pups how it goes. He specializes in nephrology within the Circle of Internal Medicine. And then we have Alex Yee with us, and Alex is an RN and BSN, and he is a transplant coordinator. So you're the one that's going to kind of give us some case studies and how the guiding goes throughout this entire process.
I'd love to.
And then we have the very lovely and happy Adria Nunez with us, who is a kidney transplant recipient. And it is an absolute joy to have you here, and you're smiling and you're in a good mood, and I think that's fantastic. So obviously you're doing well.
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. So Dr. Fernando, Dr. Rodales, let's talk nephrology. Nephrology and kidneys, they sound nothing alike. So the whole study of nephrology and what you do all day, every day, you're an internal medicine doc, but this is your specialty. If you can explain to the folks at home what your specialty is.
It's the part of medicine that takes care of the kidneys, non-surgical dialysis, diseases that affects the kidneys like diabetes, high blood pressure, lupus, and other conditions that affects specifically the kidneys. Mm-hmm. Maybe because there is affects the whole body or just specifically the kidneys.
And so when people are at a point where dialysis is something that they need, you're probably that main person that they talk to and yes. have that from. Alex, I want to call you Dr. Yee, but Alex, people get mad at me and they get mad at you. Again, as a nurse, and probably more importantly as a transplant coordinator, explain to our audience what you do all day, every day, because a lot of the questions are probably going to come in as to, okay, so I'm an organ donor, sure. There are also live organ donations, which is something that we didn't talk about in the opening, but that's something I'd like to discuss during the show. So explain that to the audience.
So I work at Las Palmas as a transplant coordinator. Las Palmas is the only hospital that has a transplant center in El Paso. So we service a wide variety of people, basically from Phoenix to out to Dallas for people that need any kidney-specific donation. So we work in an office. There's a total of 7 of us. I work with an amazing team of nurses and non-clinical specialists that help day-to-day functions and make sure that if anybody needs a kidney, they can come out to us, and we'll try our best to give them a kidney.
And kidneys are interesting, too, because you only really need one. And so that's why I definitely want to talk about the live kidney donation, too, because I feel like that's not talked about enough.
Yeah, so what we're starting to see now is a plateauing of donation amongst deceased donors. And the demand for kidneys continues to rise. So the way that we're going to try and gap the two areas is via living donors. Okay. So living donation is something that we're trying to very heavily get our hands into. And we just recently opened up a position that's now filled for a full-time living donor coordinator, and she's wonderful.
Oh, fantastic.
As a matter of fact, she donated to her mother, so she knows the insides and outs of everything living donation.
Speaking of someone who knows the insides of outs, Adrian is here, again with that big smile. I like that. You are a person who gets it from the beginning to the end and living with a smile on your face. You are a kidney recipient. If you could just tell the audience maybe when you received your kidney and just basically how you're feeling right now.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I started dialysis in 2012.
Wow. Okay.
I was on it for 4 years. I was lucky enough to get on the transplant list. I was on the transplant list for a couple of years, and finally in 2016, the offer for a cadaver kidney came up, and I was a candidate, and I said yes. They did blood test. Everything was a match, and so, yeah, I got a new kidney in 2016.
And you're feeling good?
Yes, ma'am.
So during the course of the evening, with Alex and with you, we're going to talk about, again, some case studies and what you had to do to prepare for the new kidney, what your lifestyle changes, if any, are now that you have a new kidney, etc. What I'd like to do with Dr. Rodriguez first is to talk about the process of when and how perhaps kidneys start failing. Because you're a young man. I don't know if you want to give your age.
Oh gosh, I'm 37.
You're young. You are a puppy.
Baby.
Yes, he is. Okay, so because I think a lot of times people just think, oh, that kind of stuff happens to old people. When in one's life, and maybe we can talk about the risk factors and symptoms, etc., what is it that causes kidney failure?
Well, let's use a specific disease,
Okay.
like Adrian's, somebody who has diabetes
Okay.
and who will have the disease for several years and will develop eventually kidney failure. And they will require dialysis, either peritoneal or hemodialysis. And they get to that point, and at that point, they become the potential recipient for either disease or living donor. But there are some other conditions. Hypertension, high blood pressure is another one that's very common. Diabetes is probably the most common, not just here. Here because of the background and being a largely Hispanic community, but also, the diabetes is very rampant in the city. Hypertension is the other one, and some other diseases that affect the kidneys.
So I'm gonna ask to take it back to the basics and explain what a kidney does physiologically in your body. So what is the function of the kidney?
Well, the kidney does many things, not just putting urine out, but just very simplistic way, putting out all the waste products that the body requires, and also has hormonal properties. Produces a hormone that makes the bones produce blood, and some other hormones also that are extremely important. But the main function is getting rid of the waste products and getting rid of the fluid. If you were to drink a gallon of fluids a day, that's what comes out.
And that's a perfect transition to Alex, because Alex, you were talking about you were correcting me on some numbers, thank goodness, because I had some old numbers, which means that you said that there is a higher and higher demand. So how many people are on dialysis right now in El Paso?
So there's a little bit over 2,000 people on dialysis right now. Dialysis specific, there's a handful of people that are what we consider preemptive, meaning that their kidneys are failing. We know they're going to fail, and at some point they're eventually going to start dialysis. But there's a little over 2,000 people on dialysis.
And dialysis, is this all due to kidney failure in its primary form, or sometimes could it be a combination of things that are happening which causes dialysis? And the reason I'm asking that is that I feel like sometimes you're talking about diabetes, and there are situations just with body functions, etc. Of these 2,000 on dialysis, we were talking about in El Paso, we have 150 on the wait list. So not everybody is looking for new kidneys. Is there a point in dialysis where they can wean off of it after a while? Is this a permanent situation? Kind of walk us through the idea of a dialysis. And again, 2,000 people is a lot of people.
Right, so for a population of 1,000,000, 2,000 people is a big number. Dialysis, for the most part, is generally permanent, but there are some people that are able to recover some kidney function, but the likelihood is very minimal.
Okay. Are there some people that are on dialysis for life then? Is this a
absolutely.
lifelong type of, okay. So I guess my next question there is, with 150 people who are waiting for an organ, waiting for kidneys, but there's other organs too, so maybe, I don't know how many are waiting for kidneys specifically.
Well, I'm happy to tell you. So,
okay, you're so cute. I'm happy to tell you. I've got those numbers.
So I looked up this morning, and actually there's 115,000 people waiting for an organ. Of those 115,000 people, there's a little more than 95,000 people waiting specifically for a kidney.
And that's in the United States?
That's all United States.
Okay.
If we break it down to Texas, there's a little over 8,000 people that are waiting for a kidney. And these are the people that are on the wait list. This is not the people who are on dialysis that need a kidney.
Right.
These are people that have come forward, that have gone through the requirements to be on the wait list. And then in El Paso, we have 150.
So you hit on something beautiful, the requirements to be on the wait list. We've got this 2,000 on dialysis, 100 some odd waiting for kidneys. What is the requirement for someone to be put onto the wait list?
That's a great question. So, before we even considered transplantation, we need to know that this is an abdominal surgery. So patients need to be good surgical candidates. They can't have a lot of cardiac problems, a lot of heart problems. They can't have advanced forms of cancer. We want to make sure that we're not going to do anything. We're not going to put them in any more harm than we are going to benefit them. So, for example, one of the requirements post-transplant is that we're going to lower their immune system. So this kidney wasn't initially theirs. So their body's going to want to treat it like it's an infection. It's going to want to fight it, and that's one of the ways a rejection can occur. So we lower their immune system. So let's say if somebody has active cancer, or if they have HIV or an active infection, by giving them these medications to protect them from rejection, it could potentially make things very fatal for them very quickly.
Interesting. And that's, again, I feel like you guys are just buttering each other up until the next question comes along. So, Adrian, when you were in a situation, so you were on dialysis, and just from a patient's point of view, you were someone who is a candidate for new kidneys.
Correct.
But there are other people that are 38 that could be on dialysis forever. So the process that you went through, and with your doctors, what is it that had you, I guess, ask your doctor, hey, can I get on the wait list, and what was that process to do that?
Well, it was explained to me that there were a number of factors that go into qualifying a person as a candidate for transplantation. The major thing for me, luckily, was my age. At my particular dialysis center, the majority of people there were in their late 60s, early 70s.
Okay.
So this is a situation where most people there had been easily for the majority of their lives. Since I had been there.
And you said you started in 2014, so you were on dialysis for only 2 years.
I started dialysis in 2012.
2012, my apologies,
Yes,
so for 4 years. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And in 2014 is when I qualified to get on the list.
Okay.
Such things as, what was discussed before is the liquid you intake for a normal person, everything gets evacuated through the urine. Because of the kidneys. That's the water filtration, for lack of a better term. My kidneys weren't working to the point where my output was way less than my input. One of the factors that I had to keep an eye on was the intake of water between dialysis sessions.
Okay.
In my situation, I kind of was misbehaving. I was almost considered a non-compliant patient.
Adrian.
I love my water, I love my diet soda, I love my juices. You can't do that. Between dialysis sessions, you gotta watch your liquid. Oh, that was my one weakness, is liquid. Luckily, I overcame that, which is kind of why I was on the list for 2 years before a kidney came up for me. And
I feel like 2 years, and this is just me, I feel like that's not that long.
Oh gosh, when you factor in the dialysis, my particular...
I'm just thinking about all these people on dialysis for all these years. I mean, I know people have been on dialysis for 20 years.
Oh, easily, and more.
And
more.
Yeah.
I had never, unfortunately, I did witness my father go through the same thing. So my father was diabetic, my mother was diabetic, so out of my other 2 siblings, I'm diabetic. But I was able to get on the list. I got my intake under control. My age was a primary factor. I'm on the list. Okay, great. When can I get my kidney?
Right.
Well, hold on there. We got to take into account your liquid intake, your diet. How's your weight? What's your fitness level? Are you active? Are you able to undergo such a? It's an abdominal surgery. It's major abdominal surgery. And luckily, yeah, I was a candidate. I was put on the list. Actually, it was the 3rd kidney that was offered to me that I accepted.
Okay.
It had been explained to me that the kidney you want to get, for my age, you would want to get a younger person, either from a family member or a cadaver. First one that was offered to me was a person in their late 40s, totally viable. I'm going to hold out, which was that was a poor choice.
So you said no to
said
two
no to
kidneys
the first one.
that came
yes,
up.
Yes, ma'am, correct.
Okay.
Second one was...
I didn't know that was a thing. Goodness. All right.
The second person actually had syphilis.
Okay.
That was offered to me. It's a kidney still. I would be able to manage my diabetes and the syphilis. I turned that
So you
one
would,
down.
and I pardon my ignorance here, does that mean that you would have syphilis going forward? I don't know.
I chose not to get it. Would I have been able to live
I don't know.
with the diabetes and the syphilis and manage both diseases? Otherwise, why would they have offered that to me?
Yes, there are some conditions that can be treated, even though they may be transmitted to the through the organ. You know, one way to increase the organ donations in the country, which is now being done, is people who have hepatitis C, for instance.
Right, exactly.
Who, up until a few years ago, we didn't have a good treatment. But now, if there's a condition that you can treat close to 100%, so there's a possibility, informing the patients, obviously, that they will get a kidney from somebody who has hepatitis C, and then if they develop the disease, you treat that.
How, you know, I've never heard that come up. So I'm actually, that makes me very curious. So I'm assuming then if you said no to these two kidneys, that somebody else did receive them.
Yes.
So is that, and Adrian, maybe I should ask you that. I mean, not Adrian, Mr. Yee.
Just Alex.
Just Alex. So when someone who I guess is at the top of the list refuses an organ, how does that work? Do you just go the second person on a list, third person on a list? How does that work?
So the way that kidneys are allocated is a very dynamic system. And then before I get on that, the kidneys that are offered, anybody who's considered a donor is heavily screened to try and avoid any kind of transmissible diseases or transmissible, really anything that the donor can receive, the recipient can receive. So going back to the way the kidneys are allocated, so somebody passes away or is going to pass away, the nurses that are taking care of them make a phone call to an OPO, an organ procurement organization. The one that belongs to El Paso is Southwest Transplant Alliance. And so they make a phone call to them, let them know, hey, I have somebody who could possibly pass away, or the family step forward and consider donation. And these people are the ones that organize the allocation of the kidneys, or organs. And again, each offer is dynamic, meaning that in Adrian's example, the one that he ultimately did accept, maybe he was number one, but the one previous to that, maybe he was number 3. And El Paso logistically is a little bit difficult to get kidneys to. So if we have kidneys here in El Paso, we try our best to keep them. But again, trying to keep the allocation of organs fair across the entire United States, sometimes those kidneys don't stay here. Now, getting kidneys to El Paso is a little bit difficult, but it's not impossible. We work through it all the time. But each case is dynamic depending on their points. And everyone that goes onto the wait list gains points. The way to get there to the top of the list is going to be point-based. The biggest way to gain points is time on dialysis.
Oh, interesting.
So so we know that the longer somebody's on dialysis, they're higher risk of mortality. So if you look at a graph of time on dialysis and risk of death, it's going to go up very quickly towards the end. So the people that have been in dialysis for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, those are the ones we try and transplant first, so they have a lot of points. Pediatrics carries a lot of points. The cause of kidney disease, the location of the kidney and the recipient, and also genetic or compatibility takes role. And everyone's going to be different, so the points will come and go based on other factors besides dialysis time.
And you hit on something, I feel like I'm throwing all the questions to you, and I'm sorry. But you talked about compatibility. And you're looking at blood type. What all are you looking at? Blood types, et cetera, et cetera. You were talking about ages. You were talking about time on dialysis. Is all of that factored in with compatibility of what the... Okay.
Absolutely does. So the advances in medicine now allow us to transplant people who are completely genetically incompatible. More important than genetic compatibility is going to be blood. And even then, they don't have to be identical blood types.
Really? And tell me why.
So I'll let,
That's fascinating.
Yeah,
Dr.
Dr.
Rodales. So, because I think to myself, my goodness, you have to have the same blood type. All the tissue is developed, everything. How does that work?
Well, in 2018, we have much better medications that what we used to have a few years ago.
Thank God for 2018.
Yes. But so the manipulation of the immune system, the newer medications allow us to manipulate the immune system much better. It's ideal that somebody has the same blood type and is a family member, but that's not necessarily possible. So then you start using somebody who is psychologically related, spouse, for instance, or a very good friend. And even sometimes if you have a potential donor for a family member that doesn't work, then is a system called donor exchange. And you get into a pool. Let's say you have 100 people, and your spouse didn't match, but will match somebody else in that pool.
Interesting.
And you get a living donor from that pool that comes to you. So, there are so many ways to manipulate the system, and the idea is to try to transplant somebody at an early stage, because the average time in the waiting time in the United States is about 5 years. So,
So I was thinking that 2 years to me
then-
seems relatively short.
Yes.
California
Okay.
has a wait time of about 7 years.
Wow.
So anyone who's waiting in California, come and talk to us at Las Palmas.
I want to have like a 4-hour show on this. So, because another thing that you said caught my attention. You said sometimes it's not easy to get kidneys into El Paso. And yes, we are geographically isolated, and it's 4 hours before we get anywhere of any kind of medical help. But I don't even know how to ask that question. How is it, or what cities in the United States, or even Texas, are the largest, I guess, recipients, or because even though our population is 700,000, it seems that there are more people here on dialysis, maybe because of the diabetes, than maybe a population of Dallas. That it's just statistically, maybe there's not as many that need them, but more that are giving. Is that kind of the case?
So yes and no.
Okay.
So the way transplant programs work is they work hand in hand with an OPO, an organ procurement organization. Now for Texas, we have 3 organ procurement organizations. The one that's specifically here for El Paso is the Southwest Transplant. Their main location is in Dallas, so they're central hubbed out of Dallas. So let's say if a kidney becomes available in Austin, they may move it to Dallas, and then from Dallas they'll fly it out. So again, El Paso being a little bit difficult logistically, we know that if, let's say for example, if I get a kidney offer, maybe about 7 p.m. at night, I know that I won't be able to have access to that kidney until the following morning, because the last flight, leaving El Paso or coming into El Paso at 7, 8 o'clock. So then the options become, is that kidney able to fly into El Paso?
Right.
Are they able to drive the kidney in? Is it a good kidney that we think can handle that time? So there's a lot of factors, but we just recently did number 10 for the year, and everybody's doing really well.
We've done number 10 for the year. Very
Right.
nice. And I just was handed a question that goes to exactly what you were talking about. And I love this person, an 89-year-old. What age is the age limit for someone to be a donor for a kidney? For example, is 89 years old too old? And I know, again, so this is the disclaimer that we were joking about earlier. It's not a joke, but this is the entire question that we have. So we do the best that we can with what's on here. So let's say this person ran 3 marathons in the last year, and they're just,
Right.
but I don't know if that's a question for you, Dr. Rodales, or you as accepting a kidney of an 89-year-old. But how is the screening process for the donor? And I know you talked a little bit about that, but what factors into that?
So just looking at the number, I think we can agree 89 is pretty
Might
up there.
be,
But
yeah.
on that same topic, we've seen 89-year-olds and we've seen 89-year-olds.
And and let's turn that around, would an 89-year-old be able to be put on a transplant list to receive a kidney?
So our criteria is less than 65.
Okay.
But over 65, we take on a case-by-case basis. We need to evaluate them. And at 89, it's going to be
I
very
totally
difficult.
feel like I put you on the spot.
Very difficult to convince.
This person that's called in, she's actually 41, and she's just trying to throw you a curveball. I was just handed, and this is actually the first time in history that I understand. There's a lot of stuff going on here at KCOS, and we are actually streaming live on KCOS Facebook this show, and also there's some YouTube pages as well. So what all that means, I'm kind of old, so I will find out how to say this to you in a better way later. Adrian's laughing at me. Thanks, dude. I can see you. Know that I can see you. But it's kind of exciting, so that's kind of neat. And also, if you would like to watch this show back again, I know I say it at the end of the show, but kcostv.org, you can always watch this show and all the medical shows that we've had. Usually there's a good 6 months worth of shows on there. Question here from the audience, and I have to ask it because I have to respect the questions from the audience, and plus I've never heard this before. Dr. Rodalis, you get this. Can okra cause kidney stones or kidney disease? And this is specific in a person that has type 2 diabetes. I have never heard anything like that. Maybe there's some stories out there. And again, if this is not something you can answer, we will politely decline.
Those dark veggies.
Those dark, I would say okra specifically even.
No, there are some specific foods, not okra, but that can increase the substances that will contribute in somebody who has the predisposition to form stones.
Okay.
But not okra specifically.
So what foods are?
Well, there are some patients who cannot handle well oxalates, for instance, or not oxalates specifically, and different type of foods that can contribute to the deterioration.
Okay.
People, for instance, who have bariatric weight reduction surgery, that may be an issue.
Okay.
In some of the meals.
Okay. And that's something too that, and I am not a contributor or anything, but WebMD to me, I think it's nonprofit anyway. I do a lot of my research on there, and sometimes if we're not able to answer your questions, WebMD is a peer-reviewed site that you can ask them those questions, just frequently asked questions in areas. I am reading this absolutely cold. What makes organs acceptable for transplant? I know we just discussed that. Are some blood types better than others? Should older individuals sign up to donate? Wow, these are great questions. Like somebody from your office asked these. So let's talk about acceptable, what makes organs acceptable. We talked about that actually. Some blood types. So we talked about with you the different medications that are helpful in rejection or acceptance of organs. So does that mean pretty much any blood type? Or are there some that are better? Like O positive is the universal blood donor,
right?
But
and it's the majority of the people.
Okay.
And then you go down to A, you go down to B, and those people, when they get listed, the waiting list is shorter, but it's more difficult to get those kidneys that will be ideal for transplant. But it depends in also the age of the person. If you have somebody who's 70 and is in relatively good condition, can use a kidney that perhaps is from 60 or 70, between 60 and 70 years old donor, as opposed to somebody who is 25 that has a life expectancy much longer than the other person.
Okay.
So, it's like when you buy tires.
Right.
You want to buy a new tire because all the guarantees, and you're going to drive it for a long period of time. But that doesn't mean that if you buy a used tire, it's not going to give you the same service.
Yeah, Adrian. So the reason I say that, because you said somebody from the mid-40s. I'm 51. You would totally say no to my kidney?
Oh no,
dude.
Just me this is me speaking for myself.
Yeah, I'm joking.
I was thinking like, oh man, 40. It's not really. It's good. Just in my personal opinion, is it optimum for?
You know what is beautiful? The beautiful thing is truly, and a lot of people, and I take you as a grateful person. A lot of people are not in the position where they can say yes or no. That this is a kidney, and I'm going to be able to take it, and I'm going to take it. So bless you for being in that position, and that you're doing so well. What I'd like to ask of you is, when you were notified that there's a kidney for you, is there, and maybe this is for you and Alex both to answer, is there prep that you need to do prior to receiving the kidney? Or is it like once you get on the list, you are prepping from that day forward in case a kidney comes to be? How, if you can explain to the audience how that process is.
Well, when the third kidney did come up, I believe it was a Saturday, and I was out eating with a couple of my friends, like at a steakhouse, and it was
you got a phone
loud,
call.
and like, hello, hi, Mr. Nunez, yes, are you still interested in receiving a kidney? We have it's a cadaver. They gave me the age. It was relatively young. X, Y, and Z as far as their medical history, how they passed away, and I thought to myself, it sounds good. It sounds really good. Yes, I would like to receive this kidney.
Wow.
Okay. We need you at Las Palmas tomorrow morning, early, maybe 5:30 a.m. to get you prepped. Oh gosh, okay. I get home, I get my bag packed up, and I couldn't sleep that night.
Of course not.
I was just up like, oh my gosh, it's happening. 4 years in dialysis, like you said, doesn't seem like much. I didn't think I was ever going to see that kidney.
Yeah.
And just like that, it's happening. It's happening. That's what I just kept thinking. It's happening. It's happening. And gosh, Sunday, I'm at the hospital. They get me prepped. Blood is drawn for labs, just to, like down to the T. Is this compatible? Is this compatible?
So there could have been at any point that this is not going to work for you.
And it was explained to me at any point that I don't want this kidney. I could, you know what? I changed my mind. Up to the point where I'm on the gurney ready to be wheeled into the operating room.
Wow.
Your choice. If you decide you don't want this kidney, let us know. You can back out. And here I am, 2 years later.
Goodness. So, and again, Alex, that's the question. I know I've asked this already, but say at the last minute he didn't want that kidney. Now what happens to that kidney?
So if for whatever reason somebody opts not to accept the kidney, then what we'll do is we'll make phone calls to see logistically who's next on the list. Because the next person on the list may not be in El Paso.
Right.
It may be somewhere else. So then we'll notify the appropriate people. They'll get in contact with everyone who needs to get in contact. And if we need to ship that kidney out, we'll ship that kidney out. Best case scenario for us, though, it may be the secondary person, the backup person is, I don't know, we'll say Galveston.
Right.
Galveston, and it's already 7 p.m. at night. There's no flights out. Then they're like, you know what? Keep that kidney in El Paso.
So this is all leading to that question of you were out eating on a Saturday. They say, the person on the phone, let's call her Karen. We have Karen and Aaron here who are answering phones, by the way. So Karen's on the phone, and she says to you, hey, you have to be at the hospital tomorrow morning. So that already is maybe a 24-hour time frame from when they knew or whenever the person passed away, and then you're there in the morning now for prep. You say no, and so if that kidney needs to be shipped somewhere else, we're looking at maybe another 24 hours. So I guess my question is, how long, and I guess it's different with every organ, how long can a kidney be viable before being put into another individual? And maybe that's Dr. Rodadas. I don't know, whoever wants to take that question. Dr. Rodadas.
It goes in a case-by-case basis, and depends also, the age of the donor. But in general, you want a kidney that is less than 24 hours.
Right.
Sometimes we may use some exceptions. If it's a very young donor, we may allow a little bit longer time. Mm-hmm. Or if the circumstances doesn't allow, the weather, for instance, flying a kidney to El Paso from other city, or the time, but you try to do it as quick as possible. Mm-hmm. And when the cross match is done, which means typing the tissue of the potential donor with the recipient, may take several hours before we get the results to determine if it's compatible.
See, in my head, I would think the next person on the list geographically would be someone in El Paso, because you were saying, it could go somewhere else now. I don't know. This is just my own curiosity.
No, but it depends also in, if you have a kidney, for instance, came to El Paso and has, let's say, 20 hours, and, there's no flights available, and that's one of the reasons you have a backup person. Mm-hmm. So, even though may not be the next person on the list, but because of the circumstances, you use the backup.
Gotcha. How interesting. Yes, Alex?
The two accepted methods of preserving organs right now is essentially the main way, the most cost-effective way is essentially a cooler with ice, and then they ship it. Mm-hmm. Again, advancements in medicine technology, they have basically what are kidney pumps now. So on average, kidneys are very forgiving, 24, 48 hours on ice. And 48 hours is really pushing it. Generally,
and that was my next question. So it's just on ice?
Yeah, literally just on ice.
Okay, interesting.
And so 24 hours is the gold standard for us. We try and do 15 to 30 hours. However, if we have the option that the kidney's on a pump, we have the luxury of being okay. Well, we can wait a little bit more, 48 hours ish, 48, 72 hours. They say up to 72 hours. The longest kidney that we've successfully transplanted in Las Palmas is, I think, right around 43, 44 hours.
And there's a mobile pump that travels with the kidney?
Yeah, it looks like a big egg. The kidney's inside it. It's connected to essentially an artificial artery.
Okay.
And it's pumping a preservation fluid to keep the kidney as viable as possible.
Okay, next time you guys come, you have to bring graphics or like videos and show me this stuff, because this is fascinating to me.
I have pictures.
Love it. Yeah, pictures are great. Next time you come, bring pictures. That's always a good thing. Questions here from the audience. Adrian, I'm going to direct this to you. Question, what else can you do besides drinking water? No, that's actually not it. The question is, why do people on dialysis need to drink less water, is the question from the audience, because they were talking or listening to you when you said, I shouldn't be drinking so much water. And maybe let's ask you, but then also ask Dr. Rodales, because you were talking about the fluid buildup. And how many days a week were you on dialysis? Let's start there.
I was going Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays
from
so 4:30 to 9.
From 4:30 to 9?
Yes, ma'am.
4:30 a.m.?
A.m., yes, ma'am. Because I wanted the rest of the day to go to work or go to school.
Right. Goodness gracious. Okay. So on that note, Dr. Rodales, what is it that when you're on dialysis, drinking too much fluid or watching the fluid intake, why is that physiologically that's happening to your system?
Well, remember that the kidneys work 24/7. And when the kidneys don't work, you don't make any urine. So whatever you drink has to come out. And the only way to do that is doing the dialysis. That's one of the reasons that, there are dialysis that are done on a daily basis. But for some people, that is not feasible. And so they go 3 times a week, and they stay between 3.5, 4 hours, sometimes more. And that's the time that that fluid is removed from the body. So if you put 1 liter in, that liter has to come out. If you put more fluids, you get to the point that you overload the system, the lungs, the heart, especially, and they start failing.
Right. Okay. And so that would be, and the question here too, let's say you're not on kidney failure, but it does say, and I've heard this too, just drinking a lot helps the health of your kidneys. And I think I've heard that for kidney stones.
Yeah, but that's a little bit different.
Okay, so let's differentiate the two.
Let's say somebody has a stone through. You ask them, and it's part of the therapeutic intervention, to drink more fluids to dilute the urine so they are not concentrating the urine.
Okay.
But that assumes that the kidneys are working.
Exactly.
I mean, they may not be working ideally in the sense that they form stones, but you want to keep the urine diluted. So whatever comes in has to come out.
So how is this a whole nother show if I ask you how stones are formulated, or how they are how?
That will be a different.
That's a whole different show. Okay, because
but there are different ways. But the most common is probably the calcium stones.
Okay, yeah.
And genetically determine somebody who eliminates more calcium in the urine.
Okay.
It doesn't have much to do with the diet, to be honest.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
If you drink a lot of milk, just go ahead.
Just drink your milk. Yes. Go for it. The yogurts, the cheeses. Oh, it's all about the cheese for me. Southwest Transplant Alliance. I want to do a little bit of a plug here. Is this Organ Donation Month, by the way? Because I feel like I've been seeing ads.
So April is Donate Life Month.
Okay.
And it's a month that we take to recognize all the people that have donated, people that are to be registered donors. And it's a time of the month that we really push people to increase awareness for organ donation. Again, the demand for organs continues to rise. 22 people die every day waiting for an organ, and we're kind of at that point where the deceased donor population can't give us any more. The funny thing is, we're living older. We're asking more of our bodies, and not every donor turns out to be a good donor.
And I don't know if you have this number, but I feel like so many people most people I know have that little box checked on the driver's license saying, yes, I'll be an organ donor. Is there a percentage of the country or of Texas that you may know of that actually...
Specific numbers, no.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you.
Más y menos?
Gosh, I couldn't even, you have any idea?
No, it's actually larger and larger, the
Yeah,
population.
I
that,
feel like it is.
yeah.
I feel like the awareness is out there more.
The problem is that the family of that particular person overrides that desire to donate organs.
Which is great. So this is almost where we put in our commercial to talk to your family. If this is something that you would like to have happen, we did actually a willed body program several years back where you like to will your body to science, you need to do that. Okay? You receive somebody's kidneys, so you need to will your body to science. I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding. But if you have not had the discussion with your family and you are someone who would like to donate your organs upon your death, or if there are organs that you can donate while you're living, which is kidneys, and we're going to talk about that right now, actually.
You can donate other organs as well.
Okay, let's talk about that. So number one, talk to your family. Alex, what other organs can you donate? So kidneys you can donate as a live donation.
As far as living donation, kidneys, absolutely, because you only need one kidney.
Right.
You can donate part of your liver.
That's right, part of the liver. Okay, and then what else?
I want to say you can donate some small bowel.
Okay.
Otherwise, everything else.
Yeah, you got a lot of bowel in there. That's true.
Yeah,
right? Okay.
Particularly small bowel, yeah.
Some of the small bowel. So on the note, because we're talking a lot about kidneys to say, when someone wants to become a live kidney donor, what do they have to go through and qualify for to be able to do that?
So living donation process is completely different from being on the registry.
Okay.
When somebody signs up via the DMV or one of the sign up drives to be an organ donor, they sign up for it and then it's never brought up again. Nobody's going to contact you. No one's going to try and do you want to donate? The moment doesn't come until you're close to your deathbed or you're dying, when it comes up that now is the time to consider, do you want to donate your organs? Living donation, on the other hand, is when somebody identifies themselves as, what, I want to donate to somebody that I know needs a kidney, or I just want to donate for out of the goodness of my heart.
Wow. Do people do that?
Absolutely, yeah. There we call them altruistic donors. And you know what? We have a lot of people on our wait list that put their information on El Diario, the Buffalo Nickel. You'll see it on Facebook. So-and-so needs a kidney. And we'll have people come forward and be like, you know what, I read this very touching article, and I want to see if I can donate to this person.
Wow, amazing. And that happened. Well, I can see that because we were talking about some touching stories, and we're right now at the 15-minute mark of the show ending. So I know it happens fast. What I'd like to do, I feel, Adrian, that we haven't talked to you enough. And I would love for you, whatever story about yourself you haven't told yet. I actually have a question here from the audience, and it says, to Adrian. I'll give this to you, actually, so you can keep it. Question is, what is your diet like, and have you had to modify it, and are you able to exercise? So let's answer those three first, and maybe let's talk about what this kidney mentally, emotionally, and physically has done for you since you received it a couple years ago.
Sure. Well, since I was a kid, Hispanic family, so you can imagine enchiladas, tacos, tamales for Christmas, like year-round, just bad eating. So as a kid, gosh, the tanks from Diamond Shamrock, the ridiculously sized beverages. Oh, I would put away 2 of those a day.
You're kidding me.
Yes, ma'am.
That would fit inside of you.
Pee it out, pee it out, pee it out, pee it out.
Pee it
So I'm
out,
sure
okay.
that probably had an effect, because I'm under the idea that dark sodas aren't the best for your kidneys. Doritos, Skittles, Kit Kat, Butterfinger. I was a tubby kid. I was a husky kid. So this went on through childhood. Adolescence was particularly bad because...
When was your, in this story, and I'm sorry to
Yes,
interrupt
ma'am.
you, but diabetes, when was your onset of diabetes?
I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 12 years old.
Okay. And is this diet related?
Oh, hereditary. My mom
Okay.
was diabetic, my dad was diabetic, my grandpa was
You said that
diabetic, my
earlier,
grandma
okay.
on my mom's side was diabetic.
Okay.
So the deck was stacked against me from the get-go. When I was a teenager, I made the decision to stop. I'm talking about 14 or 15 years old. I decided to stop going to my pediatrician. I don't need to go to a doctor. I can just drink water, because I was still urinating at the time. I'm just going to drink extra water. I'm still going to have my Big Macs, my
Did you ever feel funny? Did you ever feel drained? Did you ever feel like you weren't functioning at full?
At the time, no.
Okay.
I felt invincible like every kid does. I could eat it whatever I want. I could drink whatever I want. I could go out. Shoot, I would play. Man, my childhood was playing tag with the neighborhood kids, just running around, just running amok. Then 18, 19, 20 years old, oh man, it's catching up to me. It got to the point where, unfortunately, since I literally just stopped going to the doctor completely, I had to go to my mom's doctor, my mother's nephrologist. So that kind of put me on the path, okay, I got to straighten out, because if I feel this bad now, I got to preserve what I have as far as health. So now my late 20s come up, something's wrong.
And when you say you weren't feeling right, what symptoms were you having at that point? Like what is it that was coming on? Just tired, drained? Were you bloating, etc.? What was it that was happening?
Tired, sleepy all the time. I wouldn't check my blood sugar. I wouldn't take my insulin as I was supposed to until the day where I realized I'm not going to the bathroom as often. My ankles started to swell. Then my thighs started to swell. I was retaining water to that degree where my extremities were swollen with liquid. And I don't want to be too graphic, but it got to the point where things were swelling to the point where it was interfering with my bodily functions. That was the red flag where, okay, I gotta ask my doctor what's going on. So I went to my nephrologist at the time, and he said, we need you on dialysis tomorrow morning. That was the first day, like, oh man, it hit hard. And so from that point, I got to start. Then it clicked. Okay, it's only going to get worse from here. So now we're talking about portion control, protein, limiting your carbs, differentiating between good carbs, bad carbs. I'm starting to eat, quinoa, wild rice, ground turkey.
And this is all on your own? This is what you're trying to change?
Of course. I had to, before I was put on the transplant list, it was a checklist of things I had to do. I had to go to diabetes nutrition classes. I learned so much stuff. Oh my gosh, and just the team at Las Palmas. I can't sing Alex and his team's praises enough. They just went above and beyond to, he deserves it.
No, that's good.
Literally, from the time that I was checked in to the time where I left with my transplant, everything okay? Do you have any questions? They laid it out for me, step by step by step. The drugs I'm taking, my anti-rejection pills, dietitians, I spoke to the pharmacist. Everybody spoke to me. I was given a binder, which was basically my daily go-to. I feel this way, what does it mean? I check my blood sugar, what does this mean?
Oh, how fantastic.
What should I do? Like everything was laid out before me. Nutrition just being one of the facets of like this giant web that keeps me healthy and here to this day.
Nice. I'm going to acknowledge the obvious really quick. I have a summer cold. Could you tell? So that person hacking is me, and I strongly apologize for that. And Adrian, thank you, because I think you watched that, and don't give her any questions for a second. So thank you for carrying me through that coughing fit. But I love the way that you said that, and you're talking about Alex and his team, which is so highly important, because we know with any surgery that the recovery portion, the rehabilitation portion, the life changes that happen from there is something that the patient has to take very seriously. And we've had every now and again someone on the show that doesn't take it seriously and has really met the ramifications of that. So, number one, good for you for doing that. This is a question from the audience. I know we don't have a surgeon here, but the question is, how long does the physical transplant of a kidney take? And I'm thinking about Grey's Anatomy. I'm thinking about all these shows. It's like they've been in surgery 14 hours. But in general, and Dr. Rodales, I'm asking you, how long is that process? So we've got the kidney, let's say it's on the pump, it's on ice. We've got now Adrian in the room. About, and I know it's different with everyone, but más y menos, how long does that process take?
About 3 hours.
About 3 hours. So now if you had a live donor and are they in the same room? Is that something that a kidney, I guess, you can wait a little while, the donor would be in one room, the recipient would be in the other, or is that interchangeable?
They're usually in different rooms and different surgeons.
Okay.
Because one of the surgeons will be dedicated to the living donor.
Okay.
And the transplant surgeon will be dedicated to the recipient.
And speaking of surgeons, would you like to give a shout out to your surgeon?
Dr. Del Coro.
Yay, because you know you're still alive and you're doing well and you're here cutting jokes. So Dr. Del Coro, thank you very much for Adrian. Question here from the audience, and I love this. It's not really a question, but it says, what's Dr. Rodales' first name? Because a diabetic patient is interested in seeing him. So his name is Fernando Rodales, and he's great. Look him up online. I did when I was checking everybody out. So it's nice to have you here.
I can vouch for him.
You can vouch for him. I like that. Might you have, Alex, any information, website, etc., of the Southwest Transplant Alliance? If not, we can just say that and have people look that up too.
Yeah, so
Okay.
the Southwest Transplant Alliance, they have a website that you can go and visit. More important than that, coming back to April being Donate Life Month, I've been in healthcare long enough to learn that the nurses and the doctors aren't always the biggest heroes on the scene. We need to remember that in Adrian's case, someone's loved one passed away to give the gift of life. Mm-hmm. And I've come to learn that some of the biggest heroes I never met, I'll never meet, are these people and these families that have the courage to donate these kind of organs. Mm-hmm. So there's a website, donatetexas.org. You can go there and you can sign up to be an organ donor, and nobody will mess with you until the time comes. And it doesn't change the way you receive treatment. No one's going to try and kill you any faster. They're not going to withhold any kind of treatment.
Try to kill you any faster. Yeah.
But it gives the person and the family the opportunity to have that conversation. Hey, when the time comes, I'm not going to need them. Maybe somebody else can use them.
And that's so beautiful to say, and we can't stress that enough, to actually talk to your family members, because at the end of the day, your wishes are your wishes, but if your family members do not want your organs to be donated, then that's where the buck stops. So let them know if this is something that's truly a wish of yours. That's so very important. DonateTexas.org, again, we're going to throw that out there. And when it comes to live kidney transplants, or live kidney donation, I should say, because I want to focus on that for the last couple of minutes that we have, because you said, too, that with cadavers, it's getting less and less. So there's more options of live kidney donations. When someone has a kidney, 2 functioning, beautiful kidneys, healthy person, 1 kidney is now gone, what is the effect on that person's life?
So there's been a lot of studies, and the likelihood of, so the workup that we do to evaluate someone to donate is very good. We're never gonna accept a donor that we feel could potentially develop end-stage renal or any kind of renal disease that'll put them in dialysis. Mm-hmm. Now, if they do develop renal disease and they do end up on dialysis, that gives them priority points, which puts them a little bit closer to the top of the list. But yes, living donation is very important for El Paso. It's very important for the nation. And here in El Paso, Las Palmas is the only transplant program, mm-hmm. and we currently do have a living donation program. Anyone that would like to donate, anybody that wants more information to donate, they can always come and stop by. We're happy to talk to them. Isabel Aguirre is our living donor coordinator. She's actually the one who donated to her mom.
Ah, okay. Do you have a phone number where you're at?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about that.
They can always call us at the Transplant Center. The main line is 915-521-1828. 1828.
1828.
Yeah, and they can ask for Sergio. And he's the one that generally can point everyone in the right direction. Okay. His Spanish is phenomenal, and he's happy to talk to everybody and anybody who wants to know. Okay, again, we're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube pages, but you can also watch the show back again in case we didn't get that information to you. If you want to watch it back, or if you have a pencil now because you went to the drawer to get it, 915-521-1828, and that is a number you can call. Number 1, to get for more information, and if this is something that interests you for yourself, just please call. It's so very important. We have a whopping 3 minutes left, so I'm going to go to this other question here that I'm going to read cold to. A 63-year-old kidney failure on Medicare, Medicaid, so this is going to be money in an insurance question, is going to Las Palmas next week, but would like to know out-of-pocket costs, what they should expect. So
it doesn't really give a lot of information, frankly. So if someone is in need, this is something obviously insurance covers, depending on what their insurance is. I feel like when I read a question, Cole, especially on insurance, it's hard to know. But do you have anything that you'd like to throw? I know that probably, Alex, you get questions about this all the time.
So unfortunately, kidney transplantation is not life-saving. Someone can always go back to dialysis. Of course, it's going to impact somebody's life tenfold. So it is an elective procedure, and insurance and money may be a factor for some people. We do accept Medicare, Medicaid. It depends on a lot of factors. There's no set price. So it's one of those things. Just give us a call, and we're happy to help you. Okay,
and that's the important thing too, because I'd hate to even just throw out a price out there that may not work for everybody either, because. Yeah, I don't even want to go there. For the last couple of questions, we were talking about the matches. I think we've hit everything, unless one of you throws out to me, Catherine, let's hit this before we close the show. We've got about 2 minutes. Did we hit everything that you all wanted to talk about this evening? Yes?
One thing that is important in the living donors is that the idea is not to create another problem, but help the potential recipient. In other words, if there is a question in the donor, we'd rather not use it.
Okay, and I like that too. Always call and double check and see what's happening. I want to say thank you very much. We've had Dr. Fernando Rodales. So if you want to call him, that person that was watching TV, and I love him. He's been on the show several times, and I think he's fantastic. Alex Yee, thank you so much for being here. You're one of 7 coordinators. Were you the brave one that decided to come? The other 7 said no?
I was voluntold.
You were voluntold. I love it. Did you enjoy it?
Every time.
Okay, good. Adrian? You voluntold yourself to come here, right? No, but seriously, I appreciate you being here, because it does make such a difference when there's a real person that puts a face on this kind of thing.
It's been a pleasure.
Congratulations, number 1.
Thank you.
Number 2, stay away from those, what did you call them? The big
gosh,
barrels?
Thank God they don't sell those anymore.
Okay, well, that's good. Somebody along the line said thank you. I want to say thank you very much to Karen Voss and also to Aaron Pines. They're the ones with their beautiful handwriting, answering the telephones and getting the questions over this way. And again, you can watch this on the upload of KCOSTV.org immediately after the show. I'm Kathy Berg, and you've been watching The El Paso Physician.